The best lesson you could give a child, actually, is to give them a book they can't entirely understand.
Yeah. Philip Pullman is perhaps best known for his trilogy of fantasy novels, including Northern Lights 1995, The Sutton Life 1997, and The Amber Spyglass 2000. This trilogy is known collectively as his Dark Materials. Prior to this, Pullman wrote a series of successful historical novels set in the 19th century. Pullman was born in Norwich in 1946. During his early childhood, he suffered the loss of his father, an RAF fighter pilot. His mother remarried in the years following, and Pullman spent some time in Australia before settling in North Wales. Having won a scholarship at Exeter College, Pullman studied to be a writer. Following his studies, Pullman taught in various schools for over 10 years before becoming a senior lecturer at Westminster College in Oxford in 1986. The success of his trilogy allowed him to become a full-time author. Pullman's works have been accredited with many prestigious awards in literature. Northern Lights was awarded the Carnegie Medal and the Guardian Children's Book Award. For the first time in history, the Whitbread Book of the Year award was given to a children's book, The Amber Spyglass. In 2002, Pullman was a recipient of the Eleanor Farian Award for Children's Literature, while in 2005, Pullman shared the Astrid Lindgren Award alongside a Japanese illustrator. Currently, Pullman is still writing. He also participates in a number of events relating to literature, including The Big Draw. On November 5th, BBC announced it is to make a television adaptation of his Dark Materials. Pullman has expressed his delight towards this development.
Now, what I'm going to talk about this evening is this strange place, this borderland, this land along the frontier, which is the space that opens up between the private mind of the reader and the book they're reading. And of course, this borderland is different for every individual, because while parts of the borderland belong to the book, this is where we overlap with the book. Remember these little Venn diagrams we used to do in school? Parts of the borderland belongs to the book, but part of it is made up by and contributed to by and belongs only to the particular reader, to us.
Northern Lights can be placed in the genre of fantasy. This book appeals to both children and adults alike because of its quality and the elements of the fantastical genre that permeate it. However, the author himself has questioned the fantasy label attached by stating that Northern Lights is set in a universe just like ours, but different in many ways. Pullman also stated that this novel is not fantasy but stark realism. According to Pullman, his story is both real and true on some level.
Northern Lights is the first volume in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy. In North America and some other countries, the book was titled The Golden Compass. The movie and subsequent video game is also titled The Golden Compass. Lyra is the main character of the story. She is a female protagonist. We follow her journey through the book. We first meet her as an adventurous youth exploring Jordan College with her friend Roger. She is practically raised as an orphan. We learn early on that Lyra has a predestined mission that she must complete. Demons. Every person in the book has a demon. The demon is an external representation of their inner being. It takes the representation of an animal. During childhood, the demon can change. However, by adulthood, the demon becomes fixed. The fixed demon is a representation of the individual's personality. It is possible to have communication with your demon. Lyra's demon is Pan, who presents as a moth in the beginning of the book. Mrs. Cooter. We are introduced to Mrs. Cooter as a woman responsible for luring young children into a cellar under the promise of chocolate. She is presented as a glamorous, yet deceitful woman, driven by her desire to assume power. She is accountable for the disappearance of children in the London area. As she brings the children on a voyage to the north, she breaks her promise of delivering their messages to their parents as to the whereabouts. As the plot unravels, we learn that Mrs. Cooter is Lyra's biological mother, conceived after Mrs. Cooter had an affair with Lord Asriel. Lord Asriel. We first meet Lord Asriel in the retiring room of Jordan College. We are initially introduced to him as Lyra's uncle. While it is evident that Lyra fears Lord Asriel, she is simultaneously concerned for him, as she reveals herself from her hiding space in the retiring room to save his life, despite the risk of punishment. As the book progresses, we learn that Lord Asriel is Lyra's father. Lord Asriel is a key character that challenges the power systems in the book.
I hope that they would feel that Lyra was doing the right sort of thing in the situations she finds herself in, the difficult and dangerous situations. I hope they would feel that she behaves bravely. I hope they would feel that if they knew her and were her friends, she would think well of them for doing something similar.
Lyra is a deeply complex character. She embarks on a quest to find her friend Roger, who has been kidnapped by the Gobblers. We know, however, that Lyra is destined to fulfill a prophecy, which has major implications for all humankind. Underlining Pullman's views on fantasy, Lyra is also an extremely human character in that she is flawed. It is probably no accident that her name is similar in morphology to Lyre, as Lyra time and time again uses the act of deception to her advantage. The fact that her surname eventually changes to Silvertongue is an acknowledgement of this by Pullman. The story is set in the realistic setting of semi-fictional Oxford. Pullman does not want us, the readers, to waste our imagination's valuable time by having to recreate schemas. Instead, he uses real places, cities, and social structures as pillars to work around, allowing the reader to totally invest in the characters and their journey. Pullman does not actually see himself as a fantasy novelist. He merely uses it to tell us a fictional story.
Yes, I don't read fantasy because I've never found that, or I've very seldom found that the story in the book rewards my effort in getting to know the world of the story.
The ending of the first part of the trilogy is layered for perspective. Pullman is asking the reader to deal with the unfortunate death of Roger and the realization that, although without intention or malice, Lyra was involved. On the other hand, we are willing her to cross over and follow her father into an unknown and potentially dangerous world, maybe never to return.
The best lesson you could give a child, actually, is to give them a book they can't entirely understand.
Yeah.
So good for you, carry on. But don't leave the picture books behind.